Hi guys, today we're working on 5.2, A and B. It's kind of a combination of both simplifying and multiplication, so that's why I use both A and B. And what we're working on today is simplifying powers of I. And when I say powers of I just mean I that have exponents more than about 2 or 3. So we're going to go all the way down up to about 8 here on the left, and then I'm going to put the simplified version, keep the space for work over here in the middle, and the bottom part I've got 3 different examples. So if you want to copy this down now, that would help you out a little bit. Alright, let's go back up and get started. So we know that from our definition, we need something that when we multiplied it by itself, we got -1, so we could take the square root of negative numbers. And then we can take the square root of both sides of that, and we get square root of I squared. It's just I, and the square root of -1 is not simplifiable. It's just the square root of -1. So then we get to things like the I to the third power, and we've kind of encountered that before. We're just going to do a little bit more algebra. We know that I to the third power is the same thing as I to the second times I, right? This is just you add your exponents, so 2 plus 1 gives you 3 when we multiply. And we know that I to the second is really equal to -1. And we're just going to leave I right there for the moment. We could rewrite it as a square root of -1. But when we multiply -1 times I, we get -I. And that's a pretty simple form to write it in. So what we're going to ultimately say is that I to the third is equal to -I. So then I to the fourth, you could use I to the third. I'm just going to use I to the second twice. I to the second times I to the second is I to the fourth, because I like just having to put on -1. So -1 times -1 is going to give us +1. Negative times a negative is a positive. 1 times 1 is 1. So it says I to the fourth is 1, which is really handy. It's easy to multiply by 1. So for everything above this, I'm going to use I to the fourth. So then I to the fifth is going to be I to the fourth times, we need one more I to get to I to the fifth. So I to the fourth is 1 times I, which is going to give us just I. 1 times anything is anything. So that says I to the fifth is I. I to the sixth. Oh, I really should say that this, our final product, yeah, we use this for our definition, is just I. I to the sixth is going to be I to the fourth times, let's see, we need 2 more i's, so I squared. I to the fourth is 1. We know that I squared is -1. So we get -1. So that says I to the sixth is -1. I to the seventh is going to be I to the fourth times I to the third. We know I to the fourth is 1. I to the third ultimately is equal to -I, so let's use that. 1 times anything is that anything. So we get -I. I don't know if you can see a pattern forming yet, but I can. Alright, I to the eighth. I to the eighth is I to the fourth times another I to the fourth, which is just going to be 1 times 1, which is 1. Okay, so what we're looking at then is a pattern. I notice that I have I, and then the next one is -1 and -1, and then the next one is I to the -I and -I, and the next one is 1 and 1, and it's going to repeat itself over and over. So we're going to have these groups of 4 whereby this pattern will repeat every single time. So there's an easy way. We can
just count up. We can just count from, let's see a focus here, we're out of focus a little bit. We can just count and say that, hey, I to the 10th is just 2 more past this. So if our pattern is I, -1, -I, +1, then the next one is going to be I, and the next one is going to be -1. So we can say that I to the 10th is I to the fourth times I to the fourth times I squared, right? So we have a bunch of I to the fourths, which are all going to equal 1. So we have I to the fourth, which is an equal 1 times I squared, which is 1 times I squared, which is -1. So we're going to get -1 as our answer for I to the 10th. So we know that I to the 10th is I to the fourth times I to the fourth times I to the second. We know that any number of I to the fourths, whatever they're raised to, is always going to be 1. Squared is always going to give us 1. I to the second from our chart up here is going to be -1. So we're going to ultimately get -1. So we can do that. We can count, and then we can break it out like this. But what we can also notice that if we have batches of 4, we can just divide the exponent by 4, figure out the remainder,
So we divide the exponent by 4. We'd have 2 sets of 4. We'd have a remainder of 2 because that's how much. So 4 times 2 gives us 8. 2 more. We look at I to the second is going to give us -1 as our answer. So let's do that for I to the 22nd. So I to the 22nd, let's see, we've got I to the 4th, how many times? 4, 8, 12, 16, 20, so 5 times. Multiplied by, we need 2 more, so I to the second, right? So we get 1 times I to the second. We know I to the second is -1, so 1 times -1, which looks like I to the 10th and I to the 22nd, because they both have that same remainder of 2, because 22nd divided by 4 is 5 with a remainder of 2. 10 divided by 4 is 2 with a remainder of 2. Because we both have the same remainder both times, we're going to have the same simplified answer. Alright, so let's do this with a big number where we can't just do this thing over and over and over and over. Instead, let's say 161, and let's use our little shortcut. So we know that 161 divided by 4 is going to give us, I'm going to use a calculator here, I think it's, I'm not even going to try, 161 divided by 4 is going to be 40. So 40 times 4 is 160. It says we have a remainder of 1. So we'll look back up here at our chart. I to the first power is just equal to I. So we can say I to the 161st is equal to, because we have this remainder of 1, we're going to say I to the first power, which is just plain old I. And when we're leaving this in terms, we want to have any of this pattern here. So either the I, the -1, -I, or +1. And that's what all these should equal to. Alright, so in the folder you'll find a review of this whole unit. You'll also have a section which is just powers of I, so make sure you concentrate on that. But you'll also have a review of all of 5.2. Good luck, guys. Let's get to it. Do the best you can.